Angela, we just concluded your second Win-Win Workplace Summit. How did it go?
Ramona, it was phenomenal. So our community has grown by 40% over the last year. And so we had 40 more percent people who came to the summit. And what we saw were people from last year invited colleagues who are doing the work. And I affectionately call our group the Coalition of the Willing, because these are people leaders who are values aligned, who believe in human potential. Like that's the starting point of the conversation. But they're really thinking about how do they invest in people in ways that are commercially rational, that actually where people are thriving, but so is the business. And what we're seeing at the summit is that's really critical, is that we're measuring the ROI of these investments so they can be sustained at companies and also scaled.
I like that you have people from all parts of this ecosystem, all the parts that it takes to make it work. You had a lot of people who were in philanthropy, they were in companies, but then you had, like these use cases. So tell me, like, what was the humans, the whole thing's human centered, right? What was the message that you felt that the audience picked up?
The big one is that we're in this moment of transformation around work, and everyone is trying to figure out what to do. And what we've seen through our research in this community is this work can't be done in isolation. It really is through collaboration. The technology is changing so fast that many times you need thought partnership outside of your organization. So if you're a chief learning officer trying to determine what does the future of learning look like at your organization, it's helpful to have another benchmark or another CLO or chief learning officer who you can thought partner with. And these are people who the world might look at as seeming competitors, but when we're talking about the transformation that's happening at scale, what the realization is we need each other. We need to bounce ideas off of each other. And what we kept coming back to this summit is that 70% of this transformation is going to be about the humans in the room. It's going to be around changing mental models of work. What does work look like? What should it feel like? It's talking almost about a new social agreement and contract with employees and employers. Like we are starting to train people at all levels now and seeing that return on investment because frankly, graduating people, they're going into jobs that don't even exist right now. So organizations are being forced to really thinking about their learning agenda up and down the organization.
You brought it up. Technology is changing so quickly now. I think there's fear out there, though, among the people that we want to help. So, what kind of message would you give to them? How do you assure them that they're not going to be left behind?
Yeah. So the summit's theme this year was building at the speed of trust. And what we're seeing across companies, and I've researched 1,700, the ones that are doing well with this transformation is they have built a culture of trust. And they've actually had open communication. And we heard that a lot on the panels where people are thinking their jobs will be disrupted. And we keep saying, no, jobs aren't going to be disrupted. But we all are thinking people. We know that jobs are going to change with the technology. And so we're seeing many of the leaders on the stage talk about how they've honestly communicated, they've openly communicated. And I'll piggyback from DG Granger and some other people on the stage. They said, even if this is not going to be the place for you long term, we're going to ensure that we are training you in a way and investing you as an employee that you're resilient, that you have transferable skills. And that's what this new bargain is about. I don't see this next generation saying, I'm going to work at the same company for 20 years, 30 years. But I think that contract we're saying is the time while I'm here in this building, am I going to learn and grow? Am I going to learn skills where I can go somewhere else? And that's the contract and conversations we need to start having because that builds trust. And then you can talk about the transformation.
I think I totally agree with that, but I also still think we got to figure out how to get it down. You brought together a lot of really, really great people to try to get that message out there even broader. So there is hope in the middle of the country where somebody says, oh my God, hey, it's going to take my job, which is what everybody says. So it's part of the storytelling, I think. It
It
needs to
absolutely
happen.
is. You know, we had 300 phenomenal leaders here. And I started with they're the coalition of the willing, but these are the people who are trying to figure out very smartly as we roll out these new technologies, what's technology's role and what's still uniquely human in doing this. And as we think about building this win-win collective is around how do we amplify the leaders who are thinking this way? You know, how are we having conversations like we here with the media? How are we writing articles in HBR and leading journals? How are we platforming and
Mhm.
using, academia and case studies? Because you're right, we have to get this message out. But, we had more than a dozen CEOs of major companies on the stage over the last day and a half, and all of them were talking about their investments in people and the impacts that they were having on their bottom line. We have to amplify these messages because CEOs listen to CEOs, CHROs
Yes.
listen to CHROs. So that's really our theory of action.
Well, I'm so glad that you brought people together again, and I can't wait for next year.
Thank you so much, Ramona.